I think of the boldest and most original musicals of the last decade, I think of A Strange Loop. Premiering on Broadway in 2022 after years of development, this show shattered conventions and redefined what Broadway could say and how it could say it. Written by Michael R. Jackson, it told the story of a young black queer writer named Usher, who is writing a musical about a young black queer writer named Usher, who is writing a musical. The loop continued endlessly, both hilarious and heartbreaking. The show was raw, explicit, emotional, and brilliant, earning the Pulitzer Prize for Drama and the Tony Award for Best Musical. The origins of A Strange Loop trace back to Jackson's own life. While working as an usher at Broadway shows, he began writing songs that captured his struggles with identity, ambition, family expectations, and sexuality. He was inspired by the philosopher Douglas Hofstadter's book Gödel, Escher, Bach, An Eternal Golden Braid, which described strange loops, self-referential systems that fold back on themselves. Jackson turned that concept into art, writing a musical that was about itself, about its creator, and about the impossibility of escaping one's own mind. At the center of the show is Usher, a black queer man in his 20s, working a job he dislikes, haunted by doubt, and yearning to write something authentic. Around him swirl a chorus of 6 actors who embody his thoughts. They play everything from his parents' disapproving voices to his sexual desires, his insecurities, and the cultural stereotypes he wrestles with. These thoughts torment and inspire him, filling the stage with chaos and comedy. The songs of A Strange Loop are biting and varied. Intermission Song mocks Broadway cliches. Today introduces Usher's exhaustion and yearning. Inner White Girl satirizes fantasies of assimilation. Tyler Perry writes Real Life, critiques the commodification of black identity in mainstream entertainment. Memory Song reveals raw vulnerability, where Usher contemplates his failures and fears. Jackson's score blends gospel, R&B, pop, and Broadway traditions into something uniquely his own. The off-Broadway premiere in 2019 at Playwrights Horizons stunned critics. It won the Pulitzer Prize for Drama in 2020, a rare honor for a musical and the first for a black queer writer. By the time it reached Broadway's Lyceum Theatre in 2022, anticipation was immense. It arrived as both an underdog and a triumph, proving that deeply personal stories could command mainstream attention. The Broadway production, directed by Stephen Brackett with choreography by Raja Feather Kelly, embraced minimalism. The set was sparse, allowing the performers' voices and emotions to dominate. The chorus of thoughts wore matching outfits, amplifying the sense of Usher's mind as a relentless echo chamber. The staging highlighted self-referential humor while never softening the show's raw edge. Critically, A Strange Loop was hailed as groundbreaking. Reviewers praised its honesty, its unapologetic exploration of race and sexuality, and its inventive structure. Some found its explicitness challenging, but few denied its originality. The New York Times called it a thrilling, uncomfortable, and necessary Broadway musical. Audiences responded passionately. For queer black theatregoers, it was a revelation to see their experiences depicted with such candor. For others, it was an education in perspectives rarely given a Broadway spotlight. Standing ovations were common, not just for performances, but for the bravery of the work itself. The show's accolades were historic. At the 2022 Tony Awards, it won Best Musical and Best Book of a Musical. Its victory signaled a widening of Broadway's lens, recognizing stories once considered too niche or radical. It joined Rent and Hamilton as a milestone in Broadway's evolution, reshaping what kinds of voices and stories could dominate the stage. Yet, A Strange Loop was never easy. Its themes of self-loathing, family rejection, and sexual vulnerability challenged audiences. Some critics questioned whether its relentless introspection alienated casual theatregoers, but its defenders argued that discomfort was part of its power. It forced audiences to sit with the struggles of a protagonist often invisible in mainstream media. The cultural impact was profound. It gave voice to marginalized identities while proving that deeply specific stories can achieve universal resonance. It inspired other artists to push boundaries, to tell stories with honesty rather than compromise. Michael R. Jackson became a symbol of persistence, having developed the show for nearly 2 decades before its success. The legacy of A Strange Loop lies in its refusal to compromise. It is unapologetically queer, unapologetically black, unapologetically self-referential. It dares to make theatre messy, personal and recursive, embodying the very struggle of creating art while living with doubt. It is both a comedy and a tragedy, a satire and a confession. Looking back, A Strange Loop will be remembered as one of the defining musicals of the 2020s. It showed that Broadway could embrace radical honesty, that a show about one man's inner turmoil could resonate with thousands. It expanded the canon, not through spectacle, but through self-examination. When I think of A Strange Loop, I think of Usher standing alone on stage, surrounded by his thoughts, searching for meaning. I think of laughter mingling with tears, of audiences gasping at truths rarely spoken. I think of Michael R. Jackson, who turned his struggles into a Pulitzer and Tony-winning masterpiece. A Strange Loop is more than a musical. It is a mirror held up to art, identity, and the endless loop of the human mind.